Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. I seek refuge with Allah from the rejected Satan, with the name of Allah, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. All praises is due to Allah, the Lord, the cherisher, the sustainer, the caretaker, the guardian, the evolver of all systems of knowledge known and unknown. And prayers and peace be upon our leader, Muhammad, and upon his family and his companions, all of them together. I bear witness that there is no God except Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad ibn Abdullah is the conformer to Allah and the messenger of Allah. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm, lahu ma fi as-samawati wa ma fi al-ard, ma dha alladhi yashfa'u 'indahu illa bi ithnihi. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء وسع كرسيه السماوات والأرض ولا يؤوده حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. آمين آمين. As always, the first two things that I said were Ayatul Kursi and the prayer of Moses. It's the prayer that Moses prayed before going to speak to Pharaoh. And also in that transaction, or in that history that transpired, that incident, Moses also was sent with his brother, or his brother Aaron was sent with him to go to speak to Pharaoh. And Allah in the Quran, he tells this story, the whole story, in Surah Shu'ara, and Shu'ara'u, or the poets. Shu'ara'u, or the poets. And it's interesting to me that story is being told in a surah named the Poets. Now, have I come to like a conclusion, or I made a connection with that? Not clearly. Not clearly, but I just find it interesting, and it's one of those things that I have to sort of put to my subconscious, or put on the back burner, and let that marinate, and let myself think about that subconsciously, and inshallah, it will come like full circle. It will come back to me. It will hit something, because when I read the Quran, or when any of us, when we read the Quran, there's so much happening that we're taking in, so much information. If we believe that this book is from Allah, and that this book is written by Him, if we believe that, then we also have to believe that there is a lot to it. It's perfect. It's coming from a perfect being. So it has to be written perfectly. And if you study any type of literature, any type of high level of literature, you'll find that you'll have the story was written, and then you can peel back the layers. You can peel back the layers, and you can find meaning in the story. I took a literature class once. It was like a 300 or 400 level literature class, and that's just just like a upperclassman literature class, a high level literature class, and in the class we studied the book, the oh no, I forgot the name of the book, but the Canterbury Tales, the Canterbury Tales. So in this class we studied this book called the Canterbury Tales, a famous piece of literature, and the entire class, like for a whole semester, all we did was we read the story, and we took it apart. You know, we wrote essays on it. We dissected every word. We had debates and discussions and everything about it, and this was essentially just a story, a fictional story that was written, you know, by a famous writer at the time. So we spent the whole semester, you know, evaluating and going through the story and just mulling over it and thinking over it. And, you know, you went home and you had your homework and you had to, you know, read it and think on it and come up with your assessment and ideas and how you analyze it. And we did put all this work into a fictional piece of writing. Now, we came up with all kinds of parallels to society and things that were happening at the time and people and human beings and human nature. We came up with all kinds of ideas. And this was a fictional piece of work. So when I read the Quran, which is not fiction, is real, and it is full of stories, but it's also full of truths. It's a book of truth. It's a book of wisdom, full of wisdom, as it's described by itself in Surah Baqarah, I believe. So when we're reading the Quran, then how are we supposed to be approaching this level of literature? And I always like making comparisons to academia or to schools or college courses, in that we give a certain level of attention to things that are man-made or human-made. We study them, and we study them in depth, and we draw parallels and conclusions. But when it comes to the Quran, you know, sometimes we just read through it. We just read through it, and I don't know if we give the same level of thought. And when I say we, I'm talking about, you know, the educated, those of us that are educated, so-called educated. Do we give the same level of scrutiny and the same level of analysis to the Quran? Draw the same parallels? Because the Quran is so much more deeper. There's so much more there when we read it. And when we're reading it, we're taking in so much. We're taking in so much information, so many subliminals. Stuff that we don't even understand. And some stuff that we don't even Allah tells us is, you know, that you won't understand it. Not completely, not consciously. But that doesn't mean that something doesn't hit you. Something hit you. Even in Surah Shu'ara, the poets, it starts off with I believe Ta, Sin, Mim. It starts off with the letters. It's one of those surahs that starts off with letters. And we don't know the meaning of those letters. But Ta, Sin, Mim. But when reading it, I guarantee you something hits us. Something hits us when we read it. And that goes more than likely straight to your subconscious. Now, I'm not saying that I understand it or I know what it means or anything like that, because Allah says we don't, that the meaning is not known. At least not, not to us. Allah knows what it means. But something hits us. Something hits us. And all this information that we're taking in, it goes to our subconscious and we work on it. We work on it because your subconscious is always trying to find a connection. Your subconscious is always trying to piece things together. Put it together. And that's how it works. So when we're reading the Quran, we need to keep this in mind. And your subconscious, that works 24/7. It works when you sleep. And I know this because I always remember this. One night I was working on a program, a computer program. And I couldn't get the logic. I didn't understand the algorithm or the computer language to get this program to work. And I thought on it, and I fell asleep. And when I woke up the next morning, I promise you, it came to me. It hit me. Boom. And I ran to my computer. As soon as I woke up, ran to my computer, I put it in, and boom, the program worked. It was correct. So I don't know if it came to me in a dream while I was asleep. I don't know when it connected, but I wasn't conscious when it happened. I can tell you that. I was not conscious. But my mind never stops working. And this happens when we read the Quran. And we have to remember that. And I tell that story because you may be doing the work, you may be reading, and it may not come to you. It may not come to you. You may, all the way up to the last minute, you may think on something, read it, and nothing may come to you. But your subconscious, that works on it. It's there. It's in your mind. And at the right moment, when the right circumstances are put in place, then it'll come. It'll come to you. So, alhamdulillah. I always like to give little tidbits to reading the Quran, and just how I read the Quran and how I've come to look at it and understand it and frame it, because we know it's important. We know it's important, but not only is it important to do, it's like this sounds cliche. It's like breathing, and eating. It's an essential function of what we need to be doing. Because at this moment, the moment that we're in right now, here in 2019, we're at a turning point. We're at that fork in the road where, you know, we can go this way or we can go that way. And as I said before, we have a new decade coming up. So at this fork in the road, at this intersection, you know, you can go any way you want to go. But it's crucial now that we get our mindset right. It's crucial now that we get our understanding right. Because however we go in to this next decade, into this new time, that's going to set the tone. And I'm conscious of that. I'm very conscious of that on all levels. So before the year ends, I want to have my mind right. I want to have my relationships good. And I want to be on my best behavior. My best behavior, I want to be on my best thinking. I want to be alert. Because that will dictate how things go for me moving forward. For at least another 10 years. I look back on the last 10 years. And about 10 years ago, that's when I started doing the Lifeline. I went back and looked at some old notes, and I looked at the dates, and I said, wow, it's been a while since I started doing this. And it turns out it was a decade ago when I started this. SubhanAllah. So now we're going into a new decade. And alhamdulillah, it's interesting to see where things go. I'm optimistic. I'm very optimistic. I'm looking forward to the future. I'm excited, I should say. I'm very excited about the future and where it's going. And in terms of the Lifeline, subhanallah, I finally finished the YouTube channel. I finally got my YouTube channel up. And it's up and running. I've uploaded 2 videos. The first is the lecture I gave, maybe not the last one, but the one before it, called Islam in Popular Culture. That's the first video that I uploaded. And the continuation of that is the one that I did last time, a couple of weeks ago, which I've entitled Black Americans, Moses, and the Dawn of a Decade. So those 2 are already up on the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is called Free Man in the City. Free Man in the City, and if anyone needs me to repeat it, I'll repeat it afterwards. You can either go to YouTube, search for it. I'm the only YouTube channel with that name, so you can go there. You can subscribe, and after you subscribe, you also need to click the little bell. There's a little bell next to the subscribe button, and turn on all notifications. That way, as soon as I upload a new video, your phone will be alerted if you have a smartphone. So each Friday, right after the Lifeline, I will put the Lifeline talk. I'll upload it up to the YouTube channel, and it'll be available immediately, pretty much, and it'll be up there for forever. You know, the thing about technology and thinking about the way the world is moving now, you know, you can represent yourself. You can put yourself or publish yourself out there, and it's there forever. You know, forever. Sometimes people don't get that things are there forever, and they say things or do things that are not good for them, and it comes back on them 9, 10 years later, and it destroys some of them. But being conscious, once again, being conscious of what's to come, you know, that should be in your daily routine, in your mind constantly. All right, let me think down the line of what may happen in the future. So alhamdulillah, you can, if anybody needs the link to the YouTube channel, they can go to my page, or they can contact me. If you have my email, just email me. I'll also give you my number, and I'll text you the link. But you should be able to just search for it. And inshallah, moving forward into the future, into the next decade, inshallah, that's how I will be moving. And inshallah, I'll have that presence online, inshallah. So before I continue, I just wanted to really give a quick update on my leg, my health. Some people may have been wondering, because I haven't really spoken about it, but right now I'm out on disability. I completely severed the tendon between my knee and my quad muscle, the muscle right above your knee, and I was unable to walk. Alhamdulillah, now I'm able to walk again. I can walk around, not for long, but long enough. I'm able to do pretty much certain things. The doctor said that my leg and my knee is healing good and quick, and in good form. So inshallah, I'll be back to work. I'll be back out at the end of this month, December 30th. So alhamdulillah, Allah, He blessed me to have a good healing. He blessed my knee to heal well, because a lot of times after surgeries, as you all know, things can get infected, things can heal improperly. You can break, you can twist your knee or something, or mess it up even further and have to go back and get it fixed again. But alhamdulillah, everything is okay. I'm able to sit now normally, whereas before I had to have my leg propped up and it would go to sleep and I have to move around. But now alhamdulillah, everything is much better. So let me, what I want to do is I want to go back to Moses. And y'all, like I said, y'all know I love Moses. So I'm going to frequently go back to him. But I want to talk about this surah. The surah, Shu'ara'u, or the poets. Because in this surah starts off with Moses. And it tells the story of what happened when Moses actually went to Pharaoh after making that dua, the prayer or dua of Moses. This tells what happened, the story of what happened when he actually went there, and the conversation that him and Pharaoh had, which is interesting. I'm not going to go through it word for word, but I'm going to pick out an ayat or two and give further explanation. So in the surah, it starts off with Allah sending Moses to Pharaoh. And Allah tells Moses and Aaron, I should say, they're both of them. He tells Moses to tell Pharaoh that he's coming from the Rabbul Alameen, that he comes in representation of the Rabbul Alameen, the Lord of, as we know, all systems of knowledge. So here's an interesting thing that I found out when I read through this surah. Moses, one of the first things he says to Pharaoh is that he tells Pharaoh, and excuse me, I'm gonna look at it. I got it right here in front of me, because I don't want to mess it up. So he tells Pharaoh, وَتِلْكَ نِعْمَةٌ تُمُنُّهَا عَلَيْهِ أَنْ عَبَّدَتْ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ. He tells Pharaoh the favor, or the ni'mah, the blessing which you gave to me, or the blessing that you put on me, was that you enslaved the Bani Israel, the children of Israel. So this is how Moses starts the conversation. Not starts the conversation, but this comes up early in the conversation with Pharaoh. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. For one, it makes me think of the timeline of how things happened. And Moses says in here, okay, so because of something I did, essentially, he's saying, you repay me with enslaving the children of Israel. So it gives some timeline as to when the children of Israel were enslaved. And that's a side note, but that I just thought that was interesting. It sort of gives you some more context there. But what's interesting about this is that he did use the word enslaved is used, referring to the children of Israel, and it actually uses the word enslaved. Abadat, which is from abada or abd or slave. It's a stronger version of the word of slave, of the verb to be enslaved. It's a much stronger version, because in Arabic, when you have a shadda or a diacritic that doubles the word. So if you doubles the letter. So if you spell out the word in Arabic is ayn ba dal. That's abeda. But in this case, it's in a stronger form, so it's ayn, and there's two bas. So it's ayn ba dal. So it's much stronger. It's a much stronger way of enslaving. So if I had to define it in today's terms, I would say it's, instead of enslaved, of just being enslaved, it's more of a systematically enslaved. Systematically enslaved. Bani Israel, the children of Israel. And this is closer to what happened to us as black people in America, in Americas. We were enslaved, but it wasn't just like, hey, you took somebody and you had them working for you. No, there was a whole system. It was a much stronger version of slavery. So there was a whole system to the enslavement. So this puts This puts the children of Israel right with us, our ancestors that were enslaved. So Moses, he starts off with Pharaoh pointing out that, look, you enslaved my people. You enslaved the Bani Israel. And then Pharaoh goes on to question him about his philosophy. He asks him about Allah and who is your Rabb? Who is your Lord? Who is this Rabbul Alameen that you came to me talking about? And then they go back and forth, and it gets to the point where Pharaoh asked Moses to prove to him or show him some proof of what he's saying, claiming that Allah is his Lord of all the worlds, and that Pharaoh isn't. So just to clarify this some more, Pharaoh, in this case, he's the enslaver. He's the enslaver of the children of Israel. And the children of Israel are the enslaved. So you have the enslaver and the enslaved. And then you have Egypt, which is at the top. It's the pinnacle of all societies, as we know. It's the very top. They're the most advanced mathematics, architecture, so forth and so on. And this conversation here that Moses is having with Pharaoh is between the enslaver and the enslaved. And the conversation they're having is for the future of Egypt and the future of the people. So you have the enslaver, you have the enslaved, and then you have all the people of Egypt. You have these players. And these two, the enslaver and the enslaved, these are the two main players in this story. The story revolves around them. The fight for Egypt and society at large, because Egypt is at the top. So the fight for society and the salvation of Egypt is between these two, the enslaver and the enslaved. That's what it's about. Those are the main characters. Now, why am I belaboring this point of the enslaver and the enslaved, Pharaoh and Moses, who represents who? Because this is a representation in this story. You have to me, a clear representation of what's happening right now in America. And if I want to dig a little more, or be a little bit more specific, before I said in an earlier Lifeline lecture, I said that we represent the rod of Moses, and we do. I still stand by that. But if you want to get a little bit more detailed, then we don't In this story, and I'll just take this story. In this story, the enslaved are the children of Israel. They've been enslaved, or they're enslaved currently. And in the story, Moses, although he's of them, he's of the children of Israel, he escaped and found freedom. So Moses is coming to Pharaoh as a free person. But he's speaking on behalf of his enslaved people. So in this story, to be more specific, in this story, Moses is our generation. We were enslaved. And now we have come out of slavery. But yet and still, we are seeking justice from the enslavers for the enslavement that happened to us. So in this story, Moses represents us, us now, the descendants of the slaves. And he's pleading with Pharaoh to worship, to turn to one God, or to turn to truth and do the right thing. And just like Moses, and Moses has this, he has his staff with him. And the staff is always with him. And the staff that Moses has with him is connected to him. Just as nowadays, just as in 2019, as black people, we have this metaphorical, or so to speak, staff of truth that we carry with us. We carry it with us. And the reason I'm getting real specific about this, because for one, I read through the surah this morning, and I saw even more. I saw even more connections. I saw even a more in-depth similarity between us. And when I point this out, I'm looking at us now. I'm looking at us now. I'm looking at America and us. So what I'm saying is, if we line everything up, is that in America you have the enslaver. We know who that is. And on top of that, you have the enslaved. We know who that is. And then you have the ones that descend from the slaves, that escape to freedom, so to speak, that are now free, that were slaves. That's us. Now, And the story here in America, if we're lining it up to Moses' story, this story, the fight for America or the future of America, is between the enslaver and the enslaved. There is a conversation that black people in this country, or the enslaved, or the descendant of the enslaved, there's conversation that we have to have with the enslaver for the salvation of this country. And I believe, this is what I believe. I believe if we don't, if the enslavers in this country don't recognize or don't submit to their Lord, as Moses tried to explain to Pharaoh, this is who the Rabbil Alameen is. He's the Lord of the heavens and the earth and all that's in between. He's telling the enslaver, he's like, submit to your Lord, enslaver. And the enslaver, Pharaoh, he's like, no, I will not. I'm your Lord. And he tells Moses in the Surah that if you worship any other God besides me, I'll throw you in jail. And then Moses at that point presents the truth to him. He said, well, no, will you do it if I show you a clear sign? And that's when he brings the rod. He brings the truth. So we're here in America right now, in the most influential country on this planet Earth right now, just as Egypt was then. Here in America, there is a fight for its soul, its well-being. And this fight, or this conversation, is between the enslaved and the enslaver. And I know everybody wants to be represented. You have other people in this country, you have immigrants, you have other nationalities that came. But the conversation isn't with them. When you talk about the future of America, where America's going, the conversation is going to be between the enslaver and the enslaved. Or the people that come from the enslaved. That's the main conversation. That's the main thing that needs to be handled or set right for the salvation of our country moving forward. So what did Pharaoh do when Moses came to him and told him to submit? And he's having this conversation with Pharaoh. He throws his rod. he put forth truth, his truth. And what does Pharaoh do? Pharaoh says, okay. Pharaoh says, give me a minute. And then Pharaoh sends for the magicians. It's at this point that Pharaoh sends for the magicians in the city. And when the magicians come, Pharaoh, he puts the magicians, or pits the magicians against Moses. So here comes Moses. Moses, once again, representing us, the descendants of slaves. Okay? Moses is having a conversation with the enslaver. And Moses is telling the enslaver, look, submit, do the right thing. Submit to this truth. Do right by us. And the enslaver says, oh, okay. You're coming with your truth, your rod. So the enslaver says, no, okay, I'm going to bring my magicians and my people out to throw their stuff, their magic. So nowadays, in 2019 and moving into 2020, our struggle as black people in this country is the main conversation, or the main discussion that should be being had with the enslaver. But what does the enslaver do in society? The enslaver is Pharaoh. In the story, he brings these other magicians and he says, here, look, you fight against them. Now, in 2019, when the black agenda, or the African American agenda, or the descendant of the enslaved, when their agenda is put forward, what does the enslaver do? What does Pharaoh do? He says, oh no, you're bringing forth what you say is true? Okay, I got something for you. Here comes the homosexual agenda. Okay, Pharaoh says, okay, I'm going to throw forth the white woman's agenda. And these two agendas are fabricated. These struggles are fabricated. White women are not really oppressed in this country. They benefit the same as white men. And of course, the homosexual struggle, once again, is a fabrication. So these two agendas, these two struggles, quote unquote, have been thrown at the true struggle. And that's the struggle of the enslaved against this enslaver. And this is where we are politically in this country. And right now, we are in the same position as this as the conversation or the event that happens in this with Moses and Pharaoh. We're in the same spot. We have the same players. And the same things are happening. So, as we move forward into next year, which is an election year, and you watch the politicians and what they put forth as most important. And watch them. Because those that run this country, now they are representative of the enslavers, of Pharaoh. So from now on, all the way till the 2020 election, watch what issues, what concerns that are put forth. And also look at our issues. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This country, there's no way that this country will be successful unless it does right, unless the enslaver submits to the truth and does right by the enslaved. Moses, in that ayat, he's asking for Pharaoh to release the slaves to him, the enslaved, his enslaved people to him. He's asking for righteousness to be done by the enslaved. He's asking for the enslaved to be treated the way that they should be treated and the right thing to be done with them. And Pharaoh did not want to do it. And not only did he not want to do it, he threw out other confusion. So we're in the same predicament now. And inshallah, Allah will bless us and the country to be successful. I'm gonna end it there and say Assalamu alaikum and Juma Mubarak.